Hello, everyone, and welcome to IT 102, Programming 2. My name is Bob Niels, Program Chair for CPDM. In this video, we want to welcome you once again to this course. We also want to talk about the objectives of this course and what you're going to learn this semester. And we also want to talk about the expected knowledge needed to take this course. In this course, Programming 2, we're going to take what you learned in IT 101 and 111 and build on it, combine it, add to it, and also elevate you programmatically and logically to another level as a programmer. Make no mistake, this course will be robust, it will be a challenge, and hopefully a challenge that you'll enjoy and you'll want to take on. I believe when you're finished with it, you're going to be a much better programmer and your confidence level in programming will be much higher. What you're going to learn in this course is basically two different distinct pieces. Number one is in the first half. Starting in week 3, we'll get into what's called the iterative structure. You've already learned the sequential structure and the conditional structure. But now we're going to get into the iterative structure, which is looping. You're going to learn it. You're going to learn about the different forms of looping that you can actually incorporate. You're going to learn about string manipulation, the concept of indexing, and you'll basically use loops to do those types of things. You'll take that indexing concept in string manipulation and now apply it to what's called an array. We'll learn about single-dimensional arrays, parallel arrays, and multidimensional arrays. Arrays are powerful tools that once you get a knowledge of how to apply an array, it's kind of neat what you can actually do with it. You could take programs that could be potentially 10,000 lines of code and reduce it down to 10 to 20 lines of code. So with that, I believe that's a good thing to learn. In the second half of the class, we're going to deal specifically with databases in our programs. We're going to take everything you learned from IT 111, we're going to apply it to an application, basically program. Okay, we're going to learn how to connect in our code, insert data from our form. So basically when users enter data in the form, we'll take that data and apply it to our insert statements that we learned in IT 111. We'll then update a row in our database. We'll delete rows in our databases, all through code in our Visual Basic programs. We'll perform various selects in your code and display the results in your form. Those selects are going to be everything we talked about in IT 111, from simple selects to joins to outer joins to subqueries to aggregates and everything in between that we talked about and all the different clauses. So hopefully you're ready for that. You'll learn to do these both inline, meaning you'll write all the code in the programs to connect and to write the queries and to execute the queries. And you'll also learn to do what's called stored procedures, which are scripts that we'll build within our databases that we then call from our programs. It's used extensively in industry. So we'll play around with those a little bit. At the conclusion of this course, our whole goal is that you're going to grow as a programmer and your confidence will grow. And you have taken programming and problem solving to another level, and that you're now ready to go co-op. Everybody always asks me, when can I co-op? After programming 2, that's when you can co-op. Once you get this down, you're ready to go do and tackle many things. You've developed a pretty cool array application and also a database application that you want to keep as part of your portfolio for not only for co-op interviews and for post-graduation interviews. Okay, you want to keep all those little projects, especially big projects that you've written in all your classes, as part of your portfolio, so you can show your potential employers. You'll also then be ready to move on to our more advanced level of courses, which are our concentration and our elective type courses like C, Web, and Java. Expected knowledge coming to take this course. As you know, each class in your curriculum builds on one another. The most important courses within the curriculum are IT 101 and 111. We consider those our foundational courses. Foundational courses, foundation, that seems like an overused term, doesn't it? But for the most part, what we're sitting back saying is that we want to make sure that you can build upon what you've learned. If you did not build a very strong foundation in IT 101 and 111, you need to talk to your instructor immediately. Because if you don't have that strong foundation, it's going to collapse. You won't be able to gain it in 102 because we assume you already have that foundation coming from those courses. Okay, what does that mean? Well, it's relative, right? It's to the point of sitting back saying, did you master all of it? And we're not necessarily saying you had to master, but you have to have a really good understanding of what you did. Okay, If you came out of there completely clueless and you barely scraped by, please talk to your instructor immediately because you're going to suffer in this course and the rest of the curriculum. And we don't want that. We want you to do well. What is it we think you should know coming out of 101? Let's go through this checklist. By the way, this PowerPoint presentation is actually out there accompanying this video, so you can look at this one more time if you like, okay? With that said, you need to understand variables and data types, why we have variables, what type of variables, how to declare a variable, when to declare a variable, the data types, the different types of data types, and why we use different types of data types, scope, the different types of scope, when do we use the different types of scope. We need to understand how to apply mathematical operations, when to use, how to make sure we do the orders of operation correctly. The whole please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. You need to understand now how to apply conditional structures and when to apply those structures, how to write them cleanly, and how to make sure they're easy to maintain and easy to debug. We need to understand how you need to make sure you understand how and why we validate our data and when we validate our data. Why is it important to validate our data? And the 3 different ways we validate, from data type to range to existence. We understand the use of different controls in a form. We taught you many controls so far, and you're going to learn some more in this class. When do you apply them and why we apply them? Again, we use controls to make it easier for the user to interact with our programs. So make sure you know how to use them and use them effectively and use the right ones for the situation that you're in. You need to understand how to test and debug your programs thoroughly. A program is no good if it doesn't work completely 100%. A payroll program is no good if you get a check for 3 cents and you were expecting $300 or $3,000. That's not a good program, correct? So we need to make sure your programs work correctly 100%, just not get outputs. You need to understand how to debug your program. So many students avoid learning how to debug effectively. If you take the time to learn how to do this, and it won't take you very long to do so, you will save hours upon hours of time finding your problems in your programs. Also, you need to understand the purpose of breaking our code up into user-defined procedures and functions. We started talking about this the latter half of IT 101. People start getting tired and sometimes don't focus on this. Every program you write from now on, from here to the end of your career, will be broken down into functions and procedures, or classes and methods once you get into object-oriented. This doesn't go away, and this is not something we just made up. You need to learn how to do this and learn how to do it effectively. You need to learn how to pass data from those procedures, from one procedure to another. You need to make sure you know how to do that. Don't avoid doing it, but learning how to do it. Learning how to receive data either by ref or by val and understanding why we're using either one of those. We also talked about multiple forms and using a standard module and understanding what a standard module is. Standard module is not the same as a procedure. A standard module was a thing we incorporated into Visual Studio, or project, I should say, to house common procedures and functions in both forms. Okay, so make sure you understand that whole concept. Also, then understand how we introduced the concept of access modifiers in VB1, where we talked about dim, private, and public, and what those all meant and why they were important to incorporate in our variables and procedures and functions. Finally, we hope that you came out of 101 and 100, if you took that course, with a really good understanding of being able to take a problem, breaking it down into inputs, outputs, and the processes to get from the inputs to the outputs, not only logically, but programmatically. But you know how to do it logically, meaning you use the tools of pseudocode and structure charts and so on to do such a thing before you actually went to the program to write it. So many students want to write the program first without doing the design. Trust me, you're wasting time. You're wasting valuable time. Your programs can be done much more cleanly, much more quicker if you do it the opposite way. Logically solve your problems, then build the programs. IT 111, what we did in there, we understand how to create a database based upon requirements. We understand how to design the database using tools such as Visio to build our ERD. Understand the importance of a perfect ERD, entity relationship diagram, not only when we're writing our database for the first time, but also in the future to be able to use it to understand our queries, and understand how to write our queries, I should say. Understand the rules of normalization, what normalization actually is. Understand the questions to ask in second normal form so we don't over-normalize our database. Right? Second normal form gives an opportunity to do so. We provided you questions that you should ask to ensure that we don't. You need to understand the concept of relational database, the concept of a primary key, the foreign key, and referential integrity. Hopefully you came out of 111 understanding those. Hopefully you came out of the IT 111 understanding how to create a database using script. You did it a million times in that course. Understand how to write insert statements, update statements, delete statements, select statements, not only simple selects, but simple joins to more complex joins, all explicit joins using the on clause. Understanding how to use the where clause, the order by clause, the distinct clause. Understand how to write outer joins, left and right, right? How to write aggregates, sum, average, min, max, count, right? How to use group by and when to use group by, how to use having and when to use having. Also understand how and when to write a simple subquery. Wow, quite a bit, don't you think? What you've learned already is quite a bit. Good for you. The goal is to look at all that stuff and inventory that and see where you are. I didn't say you had to master it all, but you should make sure you have a good, strong foundation. During the first 2 weeks of this course, we're going to give you a couple of review problems that I really want you to work on and make sure you're comfortable with. I want you to work on them as soon as you can to make sure that you're ready for this course. And if you're not, you have time to drop this course and get a full refund. All right? So we want you to do well. If you're not ready for this course, that's okay. Maybe we talk about it and you go back and retake those courses again. Many, many people have done so. If you're ready for it, let's go. All right? Our goal is one thing. We want to make sure you know what you're doing. We want to make sure you're ready to move on because we want to make sure you are successful. I do this job for one reason and one reason only, for you to be successful. All right? So with that, let's get started.